Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Let's Talk IoT Devices webinar series. Today, we are going to focus on Vultr, which is a new ESP32 dev board. Before we introduce ourselves, I would like to talk a little bit about the logistics and some housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we will share a link after the recording is complete. We welcome all of you to revisit the actual content yourself and also share it with any of your colleagues. Also, we invite you to write your comments or questions to the actual built-in chat functionality within the webinar tool, and we are going to have a dedicated Q&A section towards the end of this webinar where we are going to look at those questions and also answer you there. Let's talk about who we are. And today's special guest is Don Papa, who is the actual creative mind behind the Vultr board as well as DP Technics. Don, do you mind saying a few words about yourself?
Of course. At first, thank you for having me here. So I am the founder of DP Technics, an IoT development company. And my specialty is actually designing the hardware and embedded software design. And together with my team, we create IoT applications in various sectors and also building blocks for the IoT, where Vultr is one of them.
Great. I'm very, very happy to have you here today. And my
Oh,
name is Dora. I am a device product manager working at Soracom. I've been working with IoT and connectivity for over 10 years, and I'm really looking forward to driving this session with you today, Don. Let's
thank
look
you.
at what we have on the agenda. We're gonna talk a little bit about ESP32S3 processors and microcontroller boards. Then we are going to deep dive into Vultr and its specifications. We are also going to look at some practical use cases. And towards the end of the session, we are going to have the previously referred Q&A section. So don't hold yourself back, please. Feel free to ask anything. We are here to answer. Um, let's look at ESP32S3 itself, because a lot of people knows that it's a low cost, low power microcontroller board, but very few people might remember that adding, for instance, Wi-Fi to an IoT project used to be a very, very costly part whenever you built an IoT product. So when we bring you down a little bit on memory lane, when Espressif Systems came out with the first ESP board back around 2014, those boards cost only $3. So they revolutionized the ESP market. Um, ESP32 itself is a very energy efficient board that is capable of handling and working in quite rugged environment. And I think many of us remember PyCom and its rise as well as its fall. And I think you, Don, you have seen an actual gap when PyCom disappeared during last year. Can you tell us a little bit about your drivers for creating Vultr?
Mhm. Yes, exactly. So, as an IoT development company, we have been creating projects, mainly remote sensing projects based on cellular IoT, where also the Wi Fi and Bluetooth component to read out local sensors was very important. So, therefore, we needed a board that had both these local radio technologies, Wi Fi and Bluetooth, and the cellular technologies like LTE-M and narrowband IoT. And at the time, the PyCon board was one of the only small form factor modules that had all of these capabilities into a single board. And it was also certified so that we could use it for commercial use. And having made these projects and deployed them successfully, it was disappointing to see that PyCom went away. But on the other hand, it was an opportunity for us because that's how the idea to create Vultr was born. And we actually took on the challenge to create Vultr as an updated version of the PyCom GPy, but with still compatibility, both hardware compatibility as it's pin compatible and also software compatibility. And that is actually how the idea to develop Vultr started.
And this is a perfect bridge over to our next slide, where we actually look at what Vultr is consisting of. So you mentioned that it has a Wi-Fi as well as a BLE support. What type of module did you bring in and why?
Mhm. So the original PyCom had an ESP32, but in our upgraded version, we use the ESP32S3. And it's actually a very, very capable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth system on chip that has a very powerful processor, but on the other hand, also focuses on low power. So it has a low power RISC-V coprocessor. It has a lot of security options inside. So it's actually the ideal choice to run it as the main processor of the Vultr board.
Great. In terms of a cellular capability, what type of cellular modem did you build in?
Mhm. Again, here we looked at what was in the PyCom, and they used a Secans modem. And Secans is actually a European vendor. They are based in Paris, and they make their own chipset. And that is what is really important for us, that we use this European chipset, and that the actual modem maker is also the designer of the chipset in the module. And besides that, Secans is already an established player in the field, and their software stack on the modem integrates a lot of protocols. Not only the basic ones such as MQTT or HTTP, but also more advanced protocols such as CoAP or lightweight
Hmm.
M2M. So that made us choose the Secans chip. And also, very important for former PyCom users is that although it is the newer version of the original PyCom chipset, it's the Monarch 2, it is still compatible. So the AT commands are exactly the same.
And it's capable of handling LTE-M and narrowband IoT as well.
Yes, yes, exactly. So both these access technologies are present. They are also narrowband IoT version 2. So it's upgradable to even release 17, which is remarkable. And also not to miss upgrade in regards to the original PyCom is that we have GNSS capability inside of the modem chip.
Very, very good. When you think about customers and target buyers, do you have mainly builders and hobbyists in mind, or are you also thinking about R&D engineers working on different volumes and different projects?
Mhm. Actually, both are possible. So you can use Vultr to make a proof of concept of your product or idea. But what we see in the cellular IoT market is that there are many companies that work in low to medium volume products. I'm thinking of volumes between 1,000 and 10,000 pieces a year. And these volumes are not enough to make a custom cellular solution because you have, of course, the certification costs, you have the antenna tuning costs. So in these kind of medium volumes, you need a good certified module that has a longevity guarantee. And that is a problem that we also strive to solve with Vultr. We both have been working on certifying the module and also working with the suppliers, Espressive and Secans and other component suppliers to guarantee an availability of 10 years. That's really, really important in IoT, that you can rely on a component of your product to be available for a longer time, because these kind of IoT applications are in the market not for 2 or 3 years like a cellular handset or something, but they are deployed for 10 to 15 years.
Indeed, we see more and more, especially low power wide area use cases exceeding 5 or even 10 years, as you say.
Mhm.
Brilliant. Let's look at the different benefits of Vultr on the next slide. And some of it we have already touched based on, like open source. Uh, PyCom used to be a closed source product, right?
Mhm. Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Being open source is really important for us. And maybe we'll zoom in on that now or a bit later, but it is really important that you mentioned open source.
And I think it makes the different engineers very, very enthusiastic about Vultr as well.
Mhm.
C and FCC certification, you mentioned just before the importance of certification and also the related costs. When you think about the geography that Vultr is going to target, especially initially, what do you have in mind?
Mhm. Well, currently the hardware is capable to be deployed worldwide, but of course you need to have the right certifications. And to start with, we are certifying Vultr for use in Europe with CE certification, in the US with FCC certification, and also New Zealand and Australia through SDoc certification. But of course, as we are progressing in this project and customers have questions to use Vultr in another part of the world, we are really open to that. And the certification methodology that we are using allows us to certify for other parts of the world really easy. So it's also based on market demand to see if we are going to certify, for example, for IC in Canada or for the Asia or Africa region.
Very, very good to hear that you are open depending on where the actual demand will come from.
Mhm.
Thank you. Flexibility and IO pins. I think we can talk about it on the next two slides where we're going to deep dive in the actual physical features. Multiple languages. You already mentioned the support for Arduino IDE, MicroPython, JavaScript, and also Expressive. We talked about the different connectivity support, and you are very, very proud that the actual manufacturing and design is both done within Belgium.
Yes, yes, we are very proud of that. And it's really nice for you to highlight that because we see in the IoT world that, given the political situation, that it is an important plus for us to be able to manufacture in Europe, and also that the cellular chipset is coming from a European vendor, and it's all designed and built here in Belgium.
And last but not least, we need to talk about the very small form factor that Vultr has. The actual size is 55 millimeter by about 25 millimeter when it comes to the module, which is very impressive. And I think it opens up a lot of doors to different projects requiring such small form factors.
Mhm. Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is the first slide about the different features and specifications. Um, when we looked at the initial slide about ESP32S3, we have seen that there is a dual core CPU inside, and we touched based on Sequence Monarch version 2. I think what's really good to maybe ask here or mention here is the actual power consumption. We all know how important power efficiency is, especially for any type of low power wide area use case. So how is the power consumption comparing of Vultr when we take, for instance, a PyCom device?
Well, actually, both the Monarch 2 chipset and the ESP32S3 chipset are upgrades from the original PyCom. And when looking at power consumption, of course, the time that is active is important, but it's even more important to look at what the device is consuming when it is in sleep mode. And there
Indeed.
we have focused on getting this sleep current as low as possible. And currently we are hitting values of 25 microamps when in PSM or EDRX mode and it's not transmitting. But actually, we have invested in special equipment like the Joule scope to bring exact measurements to the documentation of Vultr, because as a software developer, you need to zoom in on this power consumption. And that's also one of the very important things about why we work with Soracom, as PSM and EDRX are so important in this cellular technology. And you need to have good control also from the operator side to get your power consumption as low as possible.
How do you handle power-hungry applications?
Well, on Vultr, there is also a 3.3 volt output. This was also present on the original PyCom, but it was not software controllable. So the 3.3 volts to peripheral devices was always present. In Vultr, we have made this 3.3 volt output MOSFET switchable, so you can control it from software. So that allows you, when you have peripherals such as industrial sensors that consume quite a lot of power when they are doing actual measurements, and as they are designed to be connected to, for example, a PLC and don't have a sleep mode, you can still use them by just turning off the power from software. And this is a real game changer. Such a simple thing, but it's a game changer in comparison to the original PyCom.
I totally agree with you. And this is also going to attract, I think, a lot of exciting use cases.
Definitely.
Haven't talked yet about the GNSS, especially about the GPS availability on Vultr. So there is an integrated GNSS, and I wonder what is the recommended tracking interval when we talk about tracker use cases that you would recommend to any of the audience if they are about to build anything that is tracker related with Vultr.
Yes, so the GNSS is actually sharing the radio with the LTE connection. So it's a single radio that does the LTE and the GNSS. So you cannot use them concurrently. This lowers the price of the chipset, but also lowers the power consumption. So it's actually, you can use GNSS when you are in PSM mode or when you are not attached to the cellular
Mhm.
network. And this makes Vultr ideal to do like asset tracking, or even tracking a vehicle or a cargo container, or just to know where your sensor is deployed, so to speak. It is not so advisable to use it to do like high-speed tracking. It's not a continuous tracking device. You need to take into account that it takes about 30 to 60 seconds to do a fix. But it definitely helps when you have an LTE connection available. Then the technology inside the modem is using assisted GNSS. So it actually downloads all assistance data from the cloud and then uses that data to really shorten the time that the radio needs to listen. And that means lowering the power consumption. And that's also why we have integrated the LNA, so the low noise
Mhm.
amplifier, on the Vultr. And that's when you see here the antenna is really a passive antenna. There is no active antenna. And that allows us to get the power consumption when receiving is only 7 milliamps. So really, really, really low. And it's about lowering the power consumption of
Yeah,
GNSS reception, but also lowering the refresh rate of the tracking solution.
very, very impressive.
Thank you.
Let's move on. And this is one of my favorite slides within this deck because it really shows the potential possibilities that you can do with Vultr, namely because of its 28 physical pins. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you
Mhm.
can do with these different IO pins?
Definitely. And it's also one of my favorite things about upgrading to the ESP32S3. The multiplexing
Mhm.
inside this microcontroller is really giving you all the flexibility you want because you can actually get any peripheral, being it I2C, SPI, UART, CAN bus, I2S, you name it. There are a lot of peripherals in the ESP32, and they can be multiplexed to any pin
Mhm.
on Vultr. So that allows you to have this backwards compatibility with the original PyCom, but it also allows you to really optimize the routing of the carrier board that you are going to place Vultr in.
Yeah, great that you also mentioned the pin and footprint compatibility with PyCom.
Mhm.
The sky is the limit.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's all that's the nice thing about IoT. It's your imagination, and it definitely with this module you can. There are going to be use cases that we cannot even imagine today.
Brilliant. Um, we have already discussed how important it is to have an open source device, and we touched based on some of the supported software. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what
Mhm,
made you decide to keep Vultr open source,
mhm.
and what will the future bring on top of this supported software?
Hmm. Yeah, that's also, again, in comparison with the closed source PyCom solution, that's actually, in our opinion, a limitation of the system. Also, when thinking that IoT applications are deployed for 10 to 15 years, it is important for you as a developer or as a company to be able to take the software development in your own hands. And open source allows you to actually do this. So the schematics of Vultr are completely open source so that you can deep dive in how the product works and optimize every single bit inside of the software. And on the other hand, our development team can write libraries, and we do support many software tool chains like the Espressif IDF, like Arduino, like MicroPython, but also in the future, Toit is going to be used, and they actually already made a library. And that kind of cooperation and working together between us as a hardware provider and software companies that make these great languages such as Toit, that really shows the power of being open source. And you can just not achieve that by remaining closed source.
I fully agree with you, and this is what's going to make Vultr, in my opinion, into one of the next generation developer boards. By now, we understand that Vultr exists as a standalone solution, but I I also know that you thought about uh, an additional device that can add some additional peripherals as an extension board. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit more about Walter Fields?
Yes, definitely, Dora, I can. So I have Walter Fields here with me. So as you said, Walter can be used standalone, but of course, as you are developing an application, you will want to create a carrier board which can do your power management, which allows you to
Mhm.
have better connections with other sensors. And to get you as a developer started right away, that's why we designed Walter Fields. It's actually a showcase of all possibilities that Walter can control, and we have integrated quite an extensive power management, which can accept renewable energy sources such as wind energy or solar energy, from small panels that only send out 3 volts up to larger panels that send out 36 volt. And you can also connect a battery. There are multiple chemistries that are supported, from lithium iron phosphate to lithium ion to lead batteries, uh, single cell or multiple cells. And that's really
Mhm.
important. because many IoT applications are only going to use a single cell to lower BMS costs. And on the other hand, we have integrated various sensors on Vultr fields, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, but also a gyroscope, and even a possibility to install an absolute CO2 sensor for air quality monitoring. But of course, there are also a lot of more ruggedized and industrial sensors that you want to connect to. And therefore, we have on Vultr fields RS485, RS232, SDI12, CAN bus. So it's all on this board. And we also thought about storage. You can add an SD card on the board. So
Right.
probably for many applications, it's too much, but it allows you to click Vultr on it, develop your application, do some proof of concepts with customers, and take this also open source start, throw away what you don't need, and it really kickstarts the development of your IoT product.
Indeed, yeah. Yet again, the sky is the limit for your imagination with Walter Fields too.
Yes, exactly. And Vultr Field allows you to be creative without the need to design hardware first. So you can do a software first approach and optimize the hardware later.
And I really love how you bring in the sustainability and also the alternative energy source aspects. So well done, Don.
Thank you.
In the next section, we are going to jump into three different target applications or use cases where Walter has been already physically tested by different beta testers. The first one is going to cover the tracker use case that we also previously mentioned. Can you tell us about the boat that you can actually see on this picture?
Yes, definitely. So Tracker is like the most easy use case to do with Vultr because you don't even need a carrier board. And all the beta testers all over the world, when they boot up Vultr for the first time, then they pop up on the demonstration platform. And the use case that we see on the picture here was a really fun one because one of our beta testers has installed a few Vultrs on small fishing boats in Cyprus. And there the fisheries needed a solution to track the boats on an easy way and without the need to install large antennas onto the vessels. And that's where also LTE-M and narrowband IoT come to play because they can have tracking in the area that they are on the sea, even when cell phone is out of range. So normal Cat 1 or Cat 4 is out of range with just the tow glass antenna that comes with Vultr. So, and the boats that you see here on the picture are actually the ones that were first installed with a Vultr demo case.
Really, really cool. And I'm especially proud because it's Soracom SIM cards that are powered, that have been powering this use case
Yes,
out on the
yes.
Mediterranean Sea. Great, thank you for that summary. The next one is going to be also bringing us to the sea, but more to a weather station, a remote weather station. And this is where a Walter Fields has been also put in practice, right?
Yes, exactly. So here there was a customer that needed to do an installation and with industrial sensors. That these were sensors that are installed underwater and they monitor various water parameters such as conductivity, water temperature, salinity, turbidity, and these sensors talk through a Modbus connection. So here immediately Walter Fields was an exact match for this problem, as we could connect these Modbus sensors directly to the RS485 port of Walter Fields, and Walter Fields itself was installed in a watertight cabinet in the measuring station. And also here it was again nice to see that when they installed this proof of concept, again, there was no cell phone range, so they could not even make a phone call to do support, but Vultr connected right away, and we even have good signal strength on the measuring pole. And
Fantastic.
also, yeah, being LTE-M, we actually sent out 50 measuring values every 5 minutes. So their LTE-M was a very good solution because we can have near real-time data coming from the pole.
And you mentioned that you needed to apply a watertight box, but we also know that you have done this at the North Sea, and we know how rugged the condition there can be.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's in a metal case with an external antenna there, but it's like a small puck antenna. So this also was a good test for us because it showed that Vultr can be used with various LTE antennas.
Really cool. And the third and last use case we're going to look at is about tank level sensors. And I think this is also where we are going to prove that LTM is a very powerful connectivity option, especially when it comes to down deep down in the Earth's connectivity.
Yes, exactly. Here, there was a customer that actually had some kind of monitoring solution with an older first version narrowband IoT only chipset. And they actually came to us and said, we want to monitor the level of diesel tanks, like domestic diesel tanks for domestic heating, but their success rate of getting connectivity under a metal cover or 2 stories below ground was really low, like only 60 to 65%. So we said, we looked at the design and we saw some issues with the antenna design, and we say, okay, we are going to redo these tests using Vultr and with the Tau glass antennas that come with the Vultr development kit. And we have tested the sensor at about 200 locations in Belgium, outside in metal cabinets in a thick metal lid, under the ground, 2 stories underground in like concrete buildings. And we actually went up from only 60% success rate to 98% success rate. So this
That's
may
impressive.
Yes, so there you see that we do see there, and it's expected that narrowband IoT is the winner here. It's a stationary application, and it has just this tiny bit of extra power that made this test successful. Again, with the Soracom SIM cards, of course, which support both narrowband IoT and LTE-M.
Thank you. Really, really cool three use cases. And as we said, we're gonna most probably see very, very new and cool stuff popping up in the near future.
Definitely.
Shall we look at that future and what it holds for Vultr actually? You are about to launch on the CrowdSupply website, right?
Yes, yes, and that's really exciting for us. Of course, with this new module, it's all about spreading the word and uh, showing it to everybody who's interested that Vultr is here to come. And as we are an open source module, we are very proud that we were accepted by CrowdSupply, which is a Mauser subsidiary, to be crowdfunding Vultr through this platform. Actually, we are already working on the certification. So nevertheless, the outcome of CrowdSupply, Vultr is here to stay, as we have already a lot of interested people, and we are already hearing the first commercial projects with Vultr that are in the pipeline. But launching on CrowdSupply is definitely part of our strategy to telling everybody about Vultr, and also it confirms that we are open source because only open source projects are accepted on CrowdSupply.
Congrats on being accepted.
Thank
When
you.
When is it planned to actually go live? Do you have any estimate, any timeline estimate?
Mhm. We should go live at mid-December. That's the planning. So we are currently finishing up certification in California with the CE and FCC. So that's going full steam ahead, and we are now preparing the crowdfunding campaign, like making the information movie and so on and so on. So on the planning now is to have it live somewhere mid-December, just before Christmas. So it's an ideal Christmas present for any developer, I think.
Indeed, indeed. And for the time being, you already have some of the commercial packages available, and there are a few test units that can be already shared with
Mhm.
some developers. Can you tell us what's the difference between these three preliminary packages?
Mhm. Yes, definitely. So the bear package is it's important here. We really did our best to keep the price low because of course you can have like cellular modems that cost hundreds of euros, but that makes many use cases not commercially viable. So the first bare Vultr package is it's just Vultr without any antennas. You can use it like a UFL connector, so you are free to use any antenna that you want, of course, taking in regards the gain factor and so on. But this is the bare Vultr board that you can use on the carrier. And then we have being 10 years or guaranteeing 10 years of delivery also meant that we needed an antenna supplier that could guarantee us an availability of the antennas for 10 years. And that's why we chose Tau Glass as the recommended antennas for Vultr. They are compact, they can easily integrate in a housing because they are just stick on, and that is what the connected package means, that you get Vultr together with the antennas. And then we have the developer package, and that's really meant for people who want to kick off an IoT development project with Vultr. So you get Vultr, you get the antennas, and you get the Soracom SIM card with integrated and a prepaid amount. So it's really the kit that you want. You just plug it in and start developing. And it's also important to mention that within the developer package, there is support included from our engineering team. So when you have a question during development or you want advice on how to design something on the hardware, then it's included in the developer package. So that's really the way you want to go when you want to start working on your commercial IoT product.
And that one-to-one call can really mean a big difference, I believe,
Yes.
in the success of the commercial package, especially considering your experience, guys, with different IoT applications.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Very nice. Here we actually gathered all the different information about Vultr. There is a dedicated product page under quickspot.io. There is a version 4 datasheet available because Vultr went through quite some improvement in the past year. You have a dedicated GitHub. And
Mhm.
in case someone is interested in creating their own case for Vultr, they can take a look at the 3D print that your team has put together as an inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. It's a small case that you can use, put Vultr as a standalone tracker inside. So it's just fun to print. And also, I want to say exactly we are on GitHub, so we do welcome any input, like create an issue is if you have a question or if you want to do a pull request. It's actually a work in progress, and we really are open for input from others to improve our libraries on the GitHub page. It's something that we think is also very important, as also in the software we have taken a lot of time to optimize it. But of course, with software, it can always be improved.
The power of open source, right?
Exactly.
Really cool. And towards the end, we actually left two different slides. One is to give a brief overview of DP Technics. So if you don't mind saying a few words about your company, Don.
Definitely. So DP Technics is established in 2017, and we are an IoT development company. And that means that for our customers, we work from an idea on paper up to a finished product, and also the whole road behind that. That's in many cases it's forgotten, but actually the development is 20 to 25% of your IoT trajectory, and the maintenance, software updates, and so on is 75% after. And to make IoT available for small companies and SMEs, we also develop what we call IoT building blocks. And Vultr is one of the building blocks, but we also have a Linux system on module. And we also have the BlueCherry.io IoT platform, which is a completely in-house developed platform that we supply to customers if they want to connect devices. And yes, that's actually what we do, engineering, and we have expertise in many fields. That's one of the most fun things about running this company is that we learn. We are in smart lighting, AVHC, marine industry, agriculture, automotive. So we can bring a lot of experience to the table for IoT projects.
Great to hear. Sorry, my fingers were too crossed, too quick. Yes, indeed, you have a lot of different experience from a lot of different areas. And we are very, very happy to power Vultr with Soracom connectivity. And now I'm going to press the next button. And those of you who do not know Soracom, we are a connectivity and platform service provider. We are based out of Japan. We are headquartered in Tokyo, and we also have some regional headquarters in Seattle in the US, as well as in London in Europe. We power over 5 to 6 million IoT devices today, and we offer a pay-as-you-go model, but also we also cover monthly subscriptions. If you are interested in learning more about Soracom, please come and visit soracom.io. And under soracom.io, there is also a dedicated page that we reserve for our partners. And DP Technics has been recently added to that Soracom partner space. We are very proud that you guys are part of our ecosystem. And I am very much looking forward to seeing Vultr revolutionize the field of different development boards.
Thank you very much. We're also delighted to have become a partner of Soracom, as the platform is so extensive and has a lot of options that you just don't find with others. The virtual private APN is like a really interesting one for Walter. And yes, we are really happy with Soracom and tested it already all over the world. If you take a look at the Vultr demo page, you will see that our beta testers have tested from Europe to Africa to the US, all with a single SIM card. So how nice can it become?
Great to hear. Really good to hear that it's been working. And it's time to look at the different Q&A. There are a lot of different questions. Don, I think this is going to be for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just a second. No, I'm skipping that. Actually, there is a sim related question here from Mike asking if Vultr can be used with any other SIM provider than Soracom. And what I see is that there is a nano SIM holder within Vultr, and yes, it can be used by any type of carrier. Please confirm, Dan.
Yes, absolutely true. So Vultr is not SIM locked. We have the nano SIM card slot at the back of Vultr. It supports plastic SIMs from any provider. So yes, that's definitely a yes.
Then there is another one from Gare, and Gare is asking when MQTT will be available on Vultr.
Mhm. MQTT is actually in beta test, but I need to nuance this a bit because you can, of course, use MQTT directly from the AT commands in the modem, but we do know, or you should know for cellular IoT, that MQTT and or any TCP-based protocol in combination with narrowband IoT, it's not a good choice. So therefore, we have in the modem a library from Vultr, and we have implemented a co-op to MQTT bridge. And this is actually in beta test so that you can use MQTT transparently. It's really easy, just publish, subscribe, and also on the cloud side, just publish and subscribe to the Blue Cherry broker. And in the backend, in the modem library, it's actually sending these messages through co-op. So that's definitely available and something that we can help with when you choose the developer package.
Thank you. Another one landing on your table, Don. Can you send web requests directly from the device, like posts and different gets? It's from
Yes,
Mike.
yes, definitely, Mike. That's supported in the modem library directly. We have no protocol translation for that, so also bear in mind that you best use LTEM to do that. As with narrowband IoT, no TLS or TCP-based connection is guaranteed to work. Will probably work, but it's not your best option. But a normal HTTP post is definitely supported already in the open source version, both in the MicroPython as in the Arduino version. And I see in the chat that also Casper from Toit is present here in the chat, and also in Toit, it's easy to do HTTP requests.
Hmm. Mike is also asking, how do we stay up to date with developments and releases on Vultr? My initial answer will be check GitHub constantly, but you might have a better answer, Dan.
Yeah, so we actually, GitHub is, of course, if you want to be notified of pushes into the repositories, then you can, of course, follow GitHub. But I also want to mention that on quickspot.io, you can subscribe to our newsletter. We are not going to spam you. We send about 1 to 2 newsletters every month to keep you up to date, not only about the software part, but also about how it's going with the certifications, how production is going, what beta tests that we are doing. So it gives you a general look about the Vultr project and where we are with the project.
Thank you. I can see 2 more unanswered questions that we can very quickly take. Hank is asking that when GNSS is unreachable, can you actually fetch location info from the cell towers directly?
Mhm. Yes, this is possible, of course. You can use the modem to know about which provider you are connecting, but also to which cell tower ID that you are connecting to. Then, of course, you will need an external service to translate this to a location. It will not be as accurate as an actual GNSS fix, but it will give you a general idea of where you are in the world.
Cool. And I think this is going to be the last one for today. Does the BLE module support coded PH Wi-Fi?
Mhm. That one I will need to look up. I think yes, but I would need to verify in the ESP32S3 datasheet.
So we're gonna get back to Stuart on that. Thanks for the
Definitely.
question, Stuart. Great. I think we have covered pretty much everyone's questions. In case there is anything left in you, please feel free to reach out to us via LinkedIn. That's one of the options. But you are also going to receive the handout of this presentation that also includes our contact details and email addresses. I think with that, we can both thank you for your time and wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. I hope I can see you at some of the upcoming webinars. Thank you once again. And thank you, Dan, so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. It was really nice being here and interacting with the audience. So thank you again for having this session with us.
Thank you for coming. Take care, everyone.